For today's video, I want to talk to you guys about an aspect to many people's psychedelic experience that is, for some reason, often overlooked, and it's a reason for a lot of really bad trips. Basically, taking intensely mind-altering substances, which can make your thoughts become so malleable and easily influenced with another human, is a very, it can be a very intimate kind of experience. This experience gives you the opportunity to not only learn a lot about yourself, but to also learn a lot about the person you're tripping with. Some things that you may not even be ready to learn. I mean, if one person starts to have a negative experience and you're just one-on-one with someone, then that experience that they're having can easily spread to you. It can be contagious. And if both of you are spiraling down a dark path and you're reaching the point of no return where there's actually no hope in turning the experience into a good one, that can actually cause some long-lasting emotional trauma. It can damage you long after the trip has ended. I've felt the need to make this video to share my past experience with you guys just because I think that you can learn a lot from me. You can learn a lot from the multitude of mistakes I've made in my past in regards to psychedelic use, and hopefully by watching this video, you'll realize, or you'll think twice if you're faced with a similar situation in your future, and you'll make the right decision where I made the wrong decision. This is the Mescaline story that I released almost a year ago. Now, there's a huge chunk of that experience that I just didn't tell during the story, primarily because I was protecting my friend. I knew she watched the videos, and I didn't want her to watch it and, to be upset, because part of the reason why I had such a terrible experience that she doesn't even know is thanks to the way she was making me feel. And I didn't want her to feel bad about it. I don't know. If you do watch this video, then I don't mean this as any kind of attack towards you. I've kept you anonymous. No one knows your name. But this is more or less why the trip went so bad for me. This is a really emotional story for me because this was an experience that I did not anticipate ever being a part of. And it really put me through the ringer. It was tough. It was tough for me. So it has been said that the way that you feel going into a psychedelic experience is going to dictate the type of experience you're going to have. This is because psychedelics greatly draw off of how you feel. They exaggerate how you feel. It's also been said that as you're waiting for the effects to come on after you've taken the psychedelic, to keep your conversation light, because frightening or negative conversations can cause the trip that is about to come to be dark and negative. Now, these are all things that I myself was very aware of at the time, and I thought that my tripping partner was also aware of them because, to be honest, she, at the time, had so much more experience with psychedelics than I did. So I thought that this was something that she would have known. Anyway, let's get into the story. So we had decided to take 450 to 500 milligrams of mescaline hydrochloride. Now, if you guys check Arrowwood, you will see that that is in the realm of a high dose. To paint you guys a picture, we were both sitting beside each other on my couch in my living room, and as we were both waiting for the effects of the mescaline to fully manifest, she began to indirectly accuse me of some pretty wild stuff. I was sitting beside her, and she turned her head to look at me, and she had this just this distrusting face on. And she says,
"Don't you think it's kind of weird that your girlfriend would leave you alone with another girl while you guys take psychedelic drugs together?"
And I looked at her and I was just kind of confused by this because the thought actually never crossed my mind. I mean, we trust each other. It's possible to have a trusting relationship in life. And I didn't take into account the very real fact that she was still getting over an emotionally abusive relationship. She was currently with a new boyfriend and things were going well, but she was very troubled with what she said was her ex, which was an emotionally abusive human being, to the point where she was even having trust issues with her current boyfriend. I should have been smarter and realized that, hey, if this girl has trouble trusting her own boyfriend, who she says she loves, what do you think it's gonna be like being one-on-one male with a girl who clearly has some underlying hatred or just issues with men and being on a substance that makes you both vulnerable? So basically, I looked back at her with shock and I was like, no, I mean, my girlfriend would have liked to be here, but she works. She'll be back before our trip is over to trip sit us, but yeah, no, she's fine with this. She trusts us, or she trusts me. And I was looking at her like, why are you even thinking this? We just took a serious psychedelic. You should not be approaching me now with these like trust issues. This is not a recipe for a positive experience for either of us. As the effects were manifesting stronger and stronger, she kept looking at me with like these distrusting eyes. Like she just was watching me. For me, like I wasn't ready for this. I've never been alone on a psychedelic with a girl who had like trust issues with men. So in a very real way, it felt like she was projecting all of her insecurities about men onto me. And she was like imagining that I was just like every other guy who she hasn't trusted. Or maybe she was picturing I was like her ex. I have no idea. But I wasn't ready for these projections because she just kept looking at me like in this way that made me very uncomfortable. And I realized at that point that if I didn't do something drastic right now, we were in for a shitty trip. So I immediately thought, okay, it's on me. I'm hosting. This is on me to save the direction that I feel like this experience is going to start going in. So I immediately jumped up off the couch, started to walk around a little bit because mescaline can fill you with tons of energy. And I walked over to my cabinets. They were made of wood. And it's a very common psychedelic effect. The wood was flowing like a river, and I was just enamored with this flowing wood. And I began to think, okay, as long as I focus on the visuals and not on whatever I think she's projecting onto me, then we're both gonna have a good time. Because if I play into whatever the hell she's doing, this isn't gonna turn out good. So, I was pacing around because, again, it gave me lots of energy. And as I'm pacing around and just kind of like smiling, looking around at all the pretty scenery, that's when she indirectly insulted me or accused me of something else that just further affected my state. So she looks at me and she goes,
"The vibe is getting really creepy."
and I look back at her like, yeah, the vibe's... I'm thinking, what do you mean the vibe is creepy? It's just me and you. And I was thinking that she was calling me creepy because, like, we're in charge of the vibe. If the vibe is creepy, it's because of one of us. That's the only way a vibe is going to be creepy, when you're alone with someone, okay? So she was calling me creepy, and she caught herself. She's like,
No, I'm not saying you're creepy. I'm just saying the vibe is getting creepy. We should change it.
and I'm just like, yeah, we should change it. Meanwhile, I'm thinking, no, you're pretty much calling me creepy. All I'm doing is walking around my own house, looking at shit, and you're calling me creepy. Like, what the fuck am I doing that's creepy? I was definitely insulted by this. And things just proceeded to get worse and worse. I felt responsible, being the host, for her state. So I was trying everything in my power to make her feel comfortable. And it was like the more I tried, the more distrusting she got of me. Even if my perception of her perception of me isn't accurate, and she wasn't, projecting her distrust in men onto me, which I really think she was. But regardless, even if she wasn't, it still caused me to have a pretty shitty trip. So, like, the end result was the same regardless. Anyway, so as the effects started to build and build, I reached a point where I was just completely immersed in psychedelia. Like, with my eyes open or closed, I was just visualizing these rotating geometric patterns that I was like getting sucked into, like a tunnel almost. And I was sitting on the couch at this point, and as this was happening, I was starting to lose touch with my identity. I was having the infamous ego death type experience. Not 100% ego death, but I was definitely starting to, my sense of self was starting to dissolve, or just the boundaries were getting a little confusing for me. So as this is happening, I'm finding it more and more difficult to fend off whatever energy I'm feeling from her. And she's still just like got this look on her face, like she's just not enjoying herself. And shocking to me at this point, she says to me,
"I'm not really feeling it. I mean, I don't know why, but I'm just not really feeling it. You know what? I think I might just take a tab or two of acid just to, up these psychedelic effects."
Are you effing kidding me? We just took a high dose of mescaline and you're telling me you don't really feel it? And she started contemplating upping the dose. And in the back of my head, I'm going, please no, please God, no. Do not get to the same level that I'm at, because if this escalates like the way you're making me feel, if you get more into this is not going to be good. Please no. At this point, she was still like giving me this energy, like she just really didn't want to be around me. And I was interpreting the way she was looking at me as if I was like a bad person, like I was a monster. And it didn't make me feel good. And the more I lost my sense of self, the more I became suggestible to other people's opinions. And it's hilarious because she never once said anything like this to me. It was my perception of her perception. But since it was the last thought, like just going through my mind, it was bouncing around in there, it kind of stuck. So as I'm losing my sense of self, I'm starting to think, well, hey, if I'm feeling from this person that I'm untrustworthy and there's something wrong with me, maybe there is something wrong with me. So it started to spiral me into a really nasty headspace. And I just felt like I was responsible for how she was feeling. And I felt completely overwhelmed because I couldn't fully understand who I was. And at the same time, I'm trying to help her have a good experience while trying to deter her from taking more because I thought it would just be too much. And yeah, it resulted in just a complete overload for me. I was totally overwhelmed. I was fighting back tears because I was just like, I felt cold. I felt like there was no love in me. Like I just felt like an empty shell of a person because like everything in my surroundings just felt really alien. And yeah, when you're having an ego death, you want to be around someone who knows who you are, who has some love for you, who can comfort you that it's going to be okay. And I was sitting beside this person that was making me feel like I was the predator or something, that I had ulterior motives, that I wasn't genuine. I chalk it up just to her past experience or negative emotional trauma with men. Like she should not have tripped alone with a guy. That was a mistake for her. She shouldn't have done it. And I shouldn't have tripped alone with someone that had that much negative baggage around guys. It was definitely a learning experience for both of us. So what ended up happening was I just started to break down. And thankfully, when she saw me break down, she's like, okay, I should stay kind of sober to take care of him. So she went into therapist mode. And she started to like try to comfort me and help me in a very cold way. I was feeling so lonely and alone and lost. I remember asking her for a hug, and she gave me one of those like, like pats you on the back, like isn't like really, holding you like they care about you hug, like it's okay, I don't really want to hug you, but yeah, like I'm gonna help you because I'm here, I guess, it's okay. That just pushed me even more over the edge. That was not a comforting hug. After that, I was just like, I need to excuse myself to the basement. And I went into my basement, went into the corner, like you do when you're a little kid, looked at the wall, and I just started bawling my eyes out. I felt hurt. I felt hurt. I felt like I had invited this person into my home to share this experience with them because I thought that they were a genuinely good person. And I don't think she's a bad person. I don't want to say that. But whatever she was projecting or whatever I was interpreting she was projecting, I don't even know, was making me feel like a piece of shit. So I felt hurt and bothered by this, and I felt like I didn't even know who I was. And all I had to go off it was these negative projections. So thankfully, I called my girlfriend and she answered the phone. And thankfully, just hearing her voice and having her tell me she loved me, that's all I needed. I just needed to hear that someone understood me and someone loved me out there and all my weirdness. And hearing that was enough for me to snap out of the funk I was in and to actually, let go of the negative experience that I seemed to be holding on to. And she reassured me that she'd be home in an hour or so and everything was going to be okay. It was going to end. I was going to be fine. And yeah, after I got off the phone with her, I felt regenerated. So I immediately went upstairs and I invited my friend downstairs. Downstairs was bright, it was comfy, it was cozy, there was couches, carpeted floor, beige walls. I was like, okay, come downstairs and let's talk down there. So we each sat on one side of the wall facing each other, and I decided that I was going to spend the experience getting to know her. And I was going to show her through, trying to get to know who she was, that I'm not such a bad person, that if she is thinking that, I'm untrustworthy, which saying stuff like, isn't it weird that your girlfriend left us alone together? And the way that she's saying like it's getting creepy, like that, I don't care who you are, you're going to interpret that as she doesn't trust being alone with me for whatever reason. So I made it my mission to just help her feel comfortable in my presence because I knew we were in for a long haul. Mescaline lasts a while. I didn't have to put it on myself to try to make her feel comfortable, but that is what you do when someone's having a tough time. You put your tripping needs aside and you do your best to take care of them. Maybe she'll see this video and maybe she'll disagree with all of this. I have no idea. I learned a valuable lesson. Like obviously you should only trip with people that you feel some kind of love for, that you know intimately. Tripping is, I keep saying this, but it's a very intimate experience that you're sharing with someone. You're opening up basically your fears and your sense of self to someone else. You're kind of, it's like being naked in front of someone, and they can see you for who you really are at times. And that's just not something that you want to do with a total stranger. You want to, I mean, just for your own safety and well-being, you want to do that with someone you trust. And I really do think that high doses of psychedelics should only be reserved for those who are the most prepared. It is very reckless and irresponsible to just jump into a high-dose trip just because you think it would be fun. Stick with low doses until, I would say, you feel confident tripping by yourself on a low dose, and then move up to trying a higher dose with someone present. Key, someone should be present. They don't even have to be there with you hanging out. They could just be in another room. You just always need someone there who can do very simple tasks that you can't do when you're tripping. Like, it's impossible when you're out of your mind to know if your physical well-being is safe. And on, say, LSD, your heart rate can really jump, and sometimes you can feel it going boom, boom, boom in your chest. And that's enough to send you into like a delirium state where you're just afraid that your physical body's dying. And the only way out of it is to either go to the hospital, which sucks, but sometimes it's what has to be done to, make you feel better. Or what's a better alternative to that is to just have someone there who can do something simple like check your heart rate and remind you that, hey, no one's ever died from mushrooms. No one's ever died from acid. No one's ever died from smoking DMT. You're gonna be okay. It's gonna wear off. You're gonna return to normal eventually. But yeah, I learned a lot through these bad tripping partner experiences. I learned that my arrogance had to come to an end, and it really did. Anyway, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave me a big thumbs up, leave a like, and in the comments below, let me know what you guys think. Let me know about your own experiences, perhaps having a bad tripping partner. I want to hear from you guys. I also want to let you guys know that I have just released what I think is a very interesting video on my second channel, and I interviewed my 13-year-old daughter, and I asked her questions about drugs, and I kind of went into why I believe it's important to teach our kids about this stuff early. Basically what happened was her school had an assignment last year where they all had to choose a drug and do a paper on it. And I was like, wow, I actually couldn't believe how early they were introducing drug education. But I took that as my cue to jump on board and make sure that she got proper education. If you guys want to check out that video, you can find it here. Big shout out to everyone supporting me on Patreon. You guys are the reason I can keep making this content. A special thank you to everyone in this little text box here. These are my top contributors. It's thanks to you guys especially that I keep going. If you're a top contributor on Patreon and you don't see your name here, send me a message on Patreon and I will include you in the future. But yeah, that's it for this video. Hope you guys learned something. Till next time, always test your substances, test kit link in description, and stay safe, guys. I will see you later.